Uncle Doug. I know that you're a man of many passions.
Many.
And many hobbies.
Yep. Fast and the Furious franchise is my number one.
Yeah. Aerosolized cheese is another one. But I know you're very proud of your roses.
Most definitely.
Yes, your rose garden, your very English rose garden.
You know, it's ironic that you say that because I have rose bushes in my backyard that I have tried the several years I've lived in this house to kill. And they just won't fucking die. I have dug down to the roots and they just pop the fuck back up in spring.
They're kind of unkillable. I don't get the appeal, but you love them and that's what matters.
That's right. That's how I demonstrate love.
Yeah, we've all noticed that.
Tear it out by the roots. Well, Dan, you also have a passion for something rosy, don't you?
I do. I am very fond of a rose lassi. But other than that, I also like what roses can symbolize. And today, dear uncles, I want to talk a little bit about symbols and ritual. I personally have never connected deeply to symbols or to ritual on any level beyond just sort of intellectual interest.
Well, what is the swastika in your guest bathroom for then, if you don't connect to it?
That was from my trip to India, and in India it doesn't mean the same thing as it meant in Germany, so you should probably just get some education about that.
Actually?
By the way, you're not allowed to use a swastika, even if it meant something different on your trip to India.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's the thing. I've never come to any insights from having meditated on a symbol, nor have I ever felt that my life was deepened or enriched or even aided in some way by any kind of ritual. You and our listeners will likely not be shocked to learn that my brain operates at its highest level when chaos reigns. It's anarchy up there. Actually, as a quick side note, here's something, and we talked about this a little bit on the patrons-only content, so you guys will not get, those of you who don't give us money just won't ever get to hear that. But something interesting that I've just learned about myself and might actually have to do with all of this non-connecting to symbols, but also might not, and I'm just really trying to piece it together, is that I am aphantasiac. For most people, when they're asked to imagine something, like the front of their house, for example, they call up a visual image in their heads. Well, for some people, those images are sort of a decent representation of the thing. For others, and I think this is you, Uncle Mark, the picture they see is near photographic.
Yeah.
For some, like me, there is no image. I know and understand what it looks like. I can draw it or describe it to you in decent detail, but my brain doesn't produce any images. My mind's eye is basically blind.
Well, maybe you should pay your cerebral cable bill, and then you get a picture again.
It's just, I don't, I like to try and get it from the antenna.
Okay, good. That's the tinfoil on your rabbit ears.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it has any bearing on why I don't connect to symbols, but it seems to me that it might. There seems to be very little research on aphantasia right now. It was only discovered like 10 years ago, so nobody really knows much about what it means, but it occurred to me during my research for this segment that the lack of symbols in my thinking, no images and almost no words, that's another thing. I have no inner monologue or almost none, but that's a whole other kettle of worms. Anyway, the fact that my brain does basically all of its thinking in some sort of abstract space might have something to do with why symbols don't mean anything to me. Anyway, the people I want to talk about today are not like me. Were not like me. They loved the shit out of symbols and rituals. They believed that the key to unlocking the power and deeper truths of the universe is, at least in part, in symbols, but we'll get to that. Today we're going to talk about a secret group, a mysterious order, a shadowy fraternity that we've mentioned on this show several times, but we've never gotten around to figuring out who the fuck they are.
Hail Hydra!
Right? Because they're so mysterious! Unless, of course, you live in San Jose, California. Then you've probably encountered them in your elementary school years, but we'll get to that. First, let me take you all the way back to the year 1378. Wenceslas became king of Bohemia. Catholic cardinals, unhappy with their treatment by Pope Urban, revolt and elect, and this is true, an anti-pope. I didn't know that existed.
Oh, yeah.
Balsa Balsic succeeded his brother Durad as ruler of Lower Zeta. That is not Game of Thrones, that's real. And into the world was born one of its grand luminaries, Christian Rosenkreitz. Now, not much is known about Herr Rosenkreitz. As a matter of fact, the only records we have of him are 3 manuscripts which weren't published until almost 200 years after his death. The first, the Fama Fraternitatis, published in 1614, told the story of Father C.R., who embarked on a pilgrimage from the dark and stupid Europe to the wise and mystical Middle East, which is actually really true for the 14th century. He studied with sages in Jerusalem, learned from the wise men of Arabia and Egypt, and even spent time with the Christian mystical alumbrados of Spain. On this journey, he was taught about physics and mathematics, but also learned some secret esoteric wisdom. He studied magic and alchemy and even, Uncle Doug, Kabbalah.
Yeah, which was at that time quite new.
You say so. They'll tell you it was ancient. Anyway, armed with this new and great understanding, Rosenkreitz returned to Germany, excited to ignite a new era in the dark times of Europe. Unfortunately, he was met with scorn and derision. Only a select few were able to hear and understand this new way of thinking, and they were reviled by society if they dared to speak of it. So they went underground. 8 men in a secret brotherhood, working to uncover the mysteries of the universe.
The A-Team.
These were, that's right, if you can find them.
B.A. Baracus.
That's right. Face.
And Hannibal Lecter.
And Hannibal Lecter. I'm pretty sure we got that right. Here we go. No, they were the Fraternity of the Rose Cross. Dun, dun, dun. So, that's the Fama Fraternitatis. I misspelled it here, but that's what it is.
Is that where frittatas come from?
That is where frittatas come from. It's true.
And fajitas.
Yeah, exactly. Which it's a funny title for a thing about a secret order, because Fama Fraternitatis means the fame of the brotherhood. Not sure how that works. Anyway, a couple of years after that was published, and people had reacted. A couple of years after that was published, and people had a chance to react to it. Another manuscript emerged, Confessio Fraternitatus, which means something like the assertions or avowals of the brotherhood. This pamphlet, seeming to anticipate some of the outrage following the first one, stated that the brotherhood were not heathens, but were mystical Christians, so, don't worry about it, who were uncovering God's secrets through alchemy and magic. It said that the end of the world was coming very soon, but before that, God was going to bring about an era of enlightenment. This is a quote, which presently thereupon shall ensue such a truth, light, life, and glory as the first man Adam had when he lost which he lost in paradise. Which sounds nice, but I find it a startling concept. We'll be as enlightened as Adam? The whole deal in the Garden of Eden was the happiness of ignorance.
Yeah.
It's like the point of the story. The fall of man was brought about by gaining knowledge.
Right.
But fuck it, whatever. Okay.
Do they read
Anyway.
their own books? Sometimes I have to wonder.
No, nobody reads their own books.
Or maybe it's like Cypher in the Matrix, where he wanted to go back into the Matrix and not know the things he knew.
And these guys are working on the way to get back into the Matrix.
Exactly.
All right. These guys, like Jesus, They know magic, and nobody will listen to them. So they're quietly and secretly helping the world that isn't ready for them. They're Doctor Strange. Anyway, the third manuscript, very different in style from the first two, is called My Chemical Romance. No, just kidding. It's called Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreitz. Chemical just means chemical, though, so it's close.
Doesn't Rosenkreitz? How do you say it? Rosenkreitz?
Rosenkreitz.
Doesn't that sound like something Shaggy says when he's scared? Rosenkreitz.
Like, wow, Scoob! It was Christian Rosenkreitz the whole time.
I won't have you guys besmirch what was probably the most effective tool for teaching children about skepticism ever on television. Scooby-Doo. Yeah.
That's all of my Scooby-Doo impressions right there. Anyway, so yes, the chemical wedding is let's see, where am I? The book. I got it. It's basically Harry Potter if Harry were the Buddha instead of a little British boy. Rosenkreitz goes to a castle full of magic and mysteries and teaches us all about his concept of the four paths. It's all very esoteric, which I think is just code for vague and obtuse,
Totally.
and therefore just begging for someone to come along and interpret everything to within an inch of its life, which they did. These manuscripts and the Brotherhood of the Rose Cross that they describe, depending on who you ask, are the beginnings of the secret order of the Rosicrucians. Now, the Rosicrucians we've mentioned a bunch of times on this show.
Yeah, they keep popping up, don't they? They're always kind of on the edges of all these other esoteric topics.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, I say the manuscripts are the beginning. They are definitely the origin of the Rosicrucians, but not because they really are what they say they are. That is, the manuscripts themselves and our hero, Christian Rosenkreitz, are utterly bogus. They were almost certainly not written in the 14th or 15th century, but rather inventions of the 17th century, written for a contemporaneous audience. There's plenty of evidence for this. The main character's name, for one, Christian Rosenkreitz. Rosenkreitz means Rose Cross, which is the Rosicrucian symbol.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a little on the nose.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't know this about them, but that's not what I was thinking when you said his name. I'm like, hold on a minute.
Right.
That's like finding out that Matt Gates' middle name is Rufinol.
Right? Matt Rohypnol, yeah, exactly. Or that the L in L. Ron Hubbard stands for I'm going to start Scientology.
The L is silent.
The L is silent. Also, there were anachronisms in those manuscripts. You remember how I said he visited the Spanish Alumbrados?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't come around until the 16th century, but folks in the 17th century would sure have been talking about him. So
Wait, he was a time traveler too? Jesus.
Apparently, he was amazing. You never know. Now, remember how I said that last book, Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreitz, was different in style from the other two? Well, a dude named Johann Valentin André actually claimed authorship of that one, basically saying it was a goof and that he thought alchemy was stupid.
I hope so badly that that's the correct pronunciation of his name.
I'm pretty sure I nailed it. Anyway, these dumb books ignited the imaginations across Europe. It seems that this is a very human impulse to want to be part of secret knowledge that runs against mainstream thinking. Cough, cough, QAnon, cough, cough.
I think this show has a very unintentional theme today.
Yeah, by the end of this show, you're going to doubt everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's also very human to want magic to be real. Cough, cough, Fatima, cough, cough.
Yeah.
Anyway, after these books came out, secret orders started popping up all over. And as we all know, the first rule of Fight Club is you definitely talk a lot about Fight Club. But, you do it kind of secret style.
Yeah.
The manifestos were published in 1614 through 1617. By 1622, things were at such a clandestine fever pitch that people were printing posters about it and hanging them on the Paris city walls.
No kidding.
The first one said, "We, the deputies of the Higher College of the Rose Cross, do make our stay visibly and invisibly in this city." That's how it started. The second one ended really interestingly. This was a good one. This ominous promise: "The thoughts attached to the real desire of the seeker will lead us to him and him to us."
Ooh.
And thus started every, spooky movie you've ever seen in your life. Anyway, people loved peppering their writings with mysterious claims about Rosicrucians. In 1638, a Scottish poet and historian named Henry Adamson wrote this in a book called The Muses' Threnody. A threnody, I looked it up, but I've forgotten what. I think it just means lament. He wrote this: For what do we presage is not engross, for we are brethren of the Rosy Cross. We have the Mason word and second sight. Things for to come we can foretell aright. Ooh, they can predict the future. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. A 17th century phenomenon that spurred a long history of secret magical thinking. They inspired the Masons, who already kind of existed, but who, to this day, have references to the Rosy Cross in their rituals. All sorts of groups popped up, from the first obsessed with alchemy, but then expanding into much more occult ventures. One notable group, I guess alchemy kind of is a cult when you think about it, but they thought it was science. They thought all of this shit was science. They didn't know what science was. They were really dumb people back then. One notable group was the Gold und Rosenkreitz, which means the Gold and Rosy Cross. They were founded in the early 1700s in Prague. They spread quite a bit, frequently reforming themselves and eventually infiltrating and taking over many Masonic temples, claiming that the ancient wisdom known by the Rosicrucians was the real foundation for their Masonic rituals. Eventually, they added Egyptian, Greek, and Druidic nonsense to their alchemical stew, and continued to claim that they had wisdom that can only be obtained through esoteric Gnostic processes like paying your membership dues. This crap inspired so many other groups. In episode 88, Uncle Mark, you talked about Aleister Crowley.
Yep.
Who was a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn.
The Golden Dawn, yes, that were incredibly silly when you look at pictures of them. I'm sorry. It's very silly.
Indeed they are, but they learned much of their magic ceremonies and stuff from the Rosicrucians.
Yeah.
You then drew a direct line between Crowley's Thelema movement and the Ordo Templi Orientis, and a rocket engineer who became the leader of the California branch of the OTO, named Jack Parsons, who did a bunch of occult magic rituals with his buddy Ron, who then defrauded him out of all of his life savings and apparently used that money to found his own religion, Scientology.
And I think he took his girlfriend as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Really great guy, that Lafayette Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, that other guy is the inventor of solid rocket fuel.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
The fact that L. Ron Hubbard could steal anybody's girlfriend is a miracle unto itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, as I recall, looking at the pictures of Jack Parsons, he was actually quite a handsome guy.
He was.
Yeah.
He was indeed. I was just looking at him today.
Yeah, he's a really handsome guy, which Lafayette Ron was not.
No. He was doughy. We'll just say doughy. Actually, L. Ron Hubbard looks a little bit like what's his name that's Q that we all now know.
Jim Watkins.
Yeah, he does look a little bit like that.
I feel like there's a similarity there. Anyway, Rosicrucianism, that's what we're talking about. It also inspired Ariosophy, which is the racist occult movement that was very influential over some big movers and shakers in early 20th century Germany. So neat.
Yeah,
Yeah, that didn't go so well.
Hey.
The tendrils of this stuff are everywhere. What surprised me was to learn that there are still some groups currently today that call themselves Rosicrucians. I teased earlier about San Jose, California. Well, that's where the headquarters and Neo-Egyptian styled antiquities museum of the ancient and mystical order of Rosicrucians, or Amorc, is. They claim that their wisdom goes back. It doesn't just go back to the 1300s and Christian Rosenkreitz. No, this goes all the way back to the ancients. They say,
of course it does, yeah.
Of course it does. Literally, and not only that, but a lot of famous folks were Rosies. I'm going to call them Rosies. They don't use that terminology, but I like it.
Yeah, what is a secret society without the appeal to antiquity? It's useless.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. And these guys are good at that appeal to antiquity, too.
Yeah.
But famous practitioners of their, or famous people who dabbled in the Rosicrucian movement, this is directly from their website. Throughout history, a number of prominent persons in the fields of science and the arts have been associated with the Rosicrucian movement. Remember, listener at home, the Rosicrucian movement didn't start until the 1600s. Such luminaries, they're claiming such luminaries as Leonardo da Vinci, Cornelius Heinrich Agrippa, Rabelais, John of the Cross, Francis Bacon, René Descartes, Blaise Pascal, Baruch Spinoza, Isaac Newton, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, all of these people.
Sure.
Eric Satie, Edith Piaf.
Edith Piaf?
Yeah.
Really?
All Rosies,
Huh.
according to them. Claude Debussy.
Well, you know what they say when you're going to start an ancient order? You better get Agrippa.
It's so true.
But
I'm out.
I
I'm done.
love
Thank
all
you.
the
Goodbye.
great. What? Sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Go ahead.
Like, all the great thinkers from the Enlightenment, of course, were all Rosicrucians.
Well,
Of
and
course.
when you're claiming that they were members of a secret society, who's going to be able to refute you?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why not claim everybody?
Exactly.
Who do you think is cool? Yep, they were part of it. And these guys, these current people, are so into antiquity. They literally have in San Jose on their campus an antiquities museum filled with real ancient, like, Egyptian mummies and sarcophaguses. They have created a replica Egyptian tomb, which you have to descend down into to see the relics in the poorly lit fake Egyptian thing. It is amazing.
Sounds like a good time.
And if you want to join them, they'll be happy to put you on their correspondence course list, for which you can pay money, and they will send you things. And eventually, you too can know the wisdom of the ancients. So that's it. There's actually another Rosicrucian thing that's in Oceanside, California. They're a totally different group called what are they called? Hang on. Anyway, they're just a different group, and they're just the more Christian version.
They probably all just hate each other. There's
yeah, I'm sure they do.
there's no true Rosicrucian, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But that's them. They're mystical. They're unlocking. They still talk about alchemy, but instead of turning base metals like lead into pure and noble metals like gold, they want to turn your baseness into purity and nobility. It's a metaphor. They're into symbols. Did I say they're into symbols?
They want
They're
to wash
really
my
into
brain for me.
Yeah.
That's it. It's funny. I tried to look it up while you were talking, but they had a TV commercial when I was a kid.
Yes.
Do you remember
They
that?
I don't remember that, but I found that out that they would make claims about, like, they had ads that would talk about improving your memory, developing
yep.
your willpower, overcoming bad habits. It's basically Scientology.
I feel like there was a speed reading, like they could teach you speed reading or something. It was really weird.
Nice Evelyn Wood angle to it.
The 70s were just a fucking disaster.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. The Rosicrucians.
Well, we finally did it.
The secret society that we know everything we need to know about.
Yeah, so don't tell anybody about it, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Shh.